sales, it's not a transfer of information, it's a transfer of certainty. And so when I am certain that you will be happy, when I am certain that my value is much more than what I'm asking for price, when I am certain that by the end of this conversation, you will be happy, that certainty is how you build trust. Appreciate you, inviting me onto this. I'm excited. I've been feeling very inadequate as I'm trying to just really just go through your thoughts and then kind of formulate what my thoughts are as well. It's been quite interesting. I've been spending more time on very little topics than I thought it would, but it's I've done the best I could here.
Okay. Yeah. And it's completely conversational. The question list I sent you is kind of just a framework of things that I hope to cover. Yeah. And thank you and welcome. This is episode 1 of some unnamed podcast. I guess we'll call it Samco Leadership Podcast or something.
Let's go.
And just breaking the seal on some of this stuff. And maybe we can start. I notice on for the viewers, you're tagged as Racina House, who is my sister. And although this is 2025, I don't think that you are my sister or Racina. So
no, I don't think so. That's funny.
Yes. So and the reason that I wanted to talk to you in particular is a lot of your skill sets and your history in all the different areas, right? You are one of the top cold salespeople I know, and you've moved into warm sales, and I'm sure that you can do any type of these high level areas of influence as opposed to manipulation or deceit. Mm-hmm. And I know you have your own company, and you've worked for a lot of other companies as full commission and freelance sales and all that sort of stuff. So maybe we could just start with what is your name, what is your past, and what are you doing right now?
I like it. So past as far as myself or employment or related to this podcast, or
a little bit of both. I'm quite curious to hear about just the various stair steps of sales positions you've had in the last handful of years, and okay. I know you've done a lot of sales training, sales pipelining, moving that into your own company.
Yeah,
and also I'm curious the past history or the story of you that kind of led up to being exposed to those areas, and then maybe what helped you do really well based on how you grew up or how you were raised.
Yeah, that's fair. So my name's Nik Matycio. I'm 31 right now. I can't remember at the moment. Where I started off with essentially sales, I suppose. And I never really thought about this till I was in my mid-20s, but I had a little door-to-door lawn mowing business when I was 14, 15. I lived in a trailer court, but all the grass was really well maintained. And so it was quite small lawns, and I just would run around, and there would probably go 400 trailers, and I would go and I would just knock on doors, talk to people. And that's kind of where my sales world started. I never even thought about it as sales, which is interesting because I've never thought I was a salesperson. I still don't really believe I am. From the perception of what someone thinks a sales rep is and what sales is, I've never considered myself to be a high level sales rep. And so I think I think that's funny where I have never considered what I do to be sales in the perception of, or the description of what people believe sales to be. But it started off there. And then when I was 18, I as I ran into Alan Carty with Canadian Property Stars, which is a door-to-door lawn care company. I did about 5 years of that very part-time, one day every 2 weeks or one day every week. But that really did start my actual sales career. Getting that onto a resume really got me into the door with, I worked for a company called Get Assist with Tyler Fikowski, which that would have been my first, real actual in an office sales job. And I did that for about a year. That was completely commission selling a $300 package into a business network. And Russell Knapp, I believe you know, he worked there with me. Yeah, he worked there with me for a little bit. And he was like, man, do you have a LinkedIn? And I was like, no. no. He's like, well, dude, you gotta. He's like, if you're gonna get into the world, you gotta get into LinkedIn. I was like, all right, sounds good. And it must have been Tuesday at just after lunch. It was 1 or 2 p.m. and I made this account, and I got a call that same day at 4 o'clock from a lady, and this video said outside sales 150K plus plus plus. And there's like
plus 3
pluses, and she called me. We did a quick phone conversation, and she's like, hey, well, Ryan's gonna be in town in a couple weeks, and then I think we'll set up an interview. I was like, all right, sounds good. And then she called me back about an hour later and was like, hey, Ryan's in town tomorrow, can you come to the office tomorrow? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I put my suit on and went into this, B2B role. And I luckily, with his name is Ryan McGrath, he right when I sat down, he grabbed my resume and he just threw it away and said, I don't care about resumes, man. He's like, I'm here to learn about you. And I'm looking for someone who's going to fit my type of leadership more than someone who has the experience. And thankfully he did that, because I didn't have any experience at all. And it took me, I think, 2 interviews. I think there was probably about 4 or 5 different guys, but I ended up getting picked for this role. I must have been 19. And, I got into the world of B2B, and in my first 6 months, I made just over 70 grand. My next year, I made closer to the 150, 160 mark. And that would have been when I was 20. And so it really jaded me for life on what I'm worth, because there was just no way I could go back to an hourly wage, 27 or 38 or $40 an hour even, and just work more hours and make less. So I was forced into sales just by seeing what was possible, just seeing that I could spend 6 hours a day of real effort and I could make 150, 160, 180, 200,000 in a year. And so that's where the sales career was started, was purely luck. My Russell telling me to get a LinkedIn, this lady just killing her job, just like she's seen I had door-to-door on LinkedIn and just called me. And based off this call, it just worked out really well. So I interviewed really well and got very lucky. And that got me into B2B. This entire time I was doing door-to-door, very part-time. After about 3 years of shredded in the B2B world, corporate's not for me. I'm sure you guys you'll notice throughout this interview, I'm not a polished individual. I just don't have what it takes to fit into the corporate lingo and worry about people's, worry about anything that corporate worries about. And so I didn't last too long there. I ended up leaving. And I was looking at a few different roles, and I did get a job part-time. I was making $27.50 an hour, and I was just stoked. I was like, all right, let's go do some labor. And it was for that horizontal drilling company. And yeah, I worked 115 hours in the first 2 weeks, and I took home like $2,400. And I was just like, man, I figured $27.50 was a great wage. It's been a few years since I worked wage, but man, it just didn't add up. So my first paycheck, I quit internally. I was there for about another 3 months. And so I was looking for other things. And then I was talking to my buddy at Chain Property Stars, who was a GM. And he had told me a couple of years back that he wanted me to come in. A year before, he said it wasn't the right year. And then this year, we kind of talked about it, and I ended up just going managing there. And so that was essentially it's a sales management position. This is an 8-month season, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for the first 4 months, and like 16 hours a day for the other 4 months. And then you get 4 months off. So it's a very, very all-inclusive military type role for essentially door-to-door lawn care. And that got me into management, and that would be technically my first leadership role. And my first year, I was a regular manager. My second year was assistant GM, and then my third year, I was assistant GM once more, and then my fourth, I was general manager of a different location. So I did 5 years completely, but I was doing the trainings for anywhere from 15 to 70 reps a day from my second year and on, and that was daily. So I did daily trainings for about 5 months straight, teaching everything from the basics of the intro to as I get a more experienced team, the higher level body language and timing and just everything that a rep needs to succeed, not in door to door with aeration, but just in sales in general. Just understanding that, so spend a ton of time with training and just really figuring out my style, and really figuring out that my style doesn't actually train the masses. And so I spent a lot of time learning how to bring the importance of bring what is important, but being able to explain and teach in a way that fits everybody. So more so principle-based training. I think that's been my claim to fame as a trainer, is I'm not trying to teach a style. I'm just trying to teach the understanding of why this works and why things happen. And so I've just spent most of my time really perfecting the art of what works with most people. What do people actually understand, and why does sales work so well? And why do some reps, because I'm not an articulate speaker. I don't have amazing verbiage. I'm very simple, but my results outshine most. And it's not because of fancy, slick sales tactics. It's just because of understanding human and energy, and being able to control how someone else feels with the way you're standing, with the way you're speaking, and how you're explaining things. And
I'm curious, like what maybe if we could just dive into some of those points.
Yeah.
Like that's what I really appreciate about your style, is that it's very, what I would call, ethical. And one of the things we wanted to cover was the difference between influence and manipulation, and I would call what a lot of the traditional expectations of a salesperson is that manipulation, that sales tactics, to trick people into saying yes or force them to. And I found you have this more ethical, principle-based style, and I'm curious kind of what the difference is there for you, and how you kind of approach that piece of the process.
I have always sold the way that I would want to be sold to. And based off of that, I don't believe I'm stupid. I don't believe I can be tricked. I don't believe that I don't believe I'm able to be tricked, if that makes sense. And so I've always assumed that the person in front of me is the same way. I've always I've always treated them exactly the same as I would treat myself. And because of that, these styles and these approaches that people take, that honestly, they work in industries, they work with certain demographics, that you're going to sell a certain type of person. But I've always believed that I don't want anybody to regret purchasing from me. Like there was times in my career, particularly with paper shredding, where paper shredding, nobody cares about paper shredding. Nobody's super stoked to wake up and sell paper shredding. Nobody's fired up like, yo, I have a meeting with this guy about paper shredding today. It's a very bland industry, but everybody needs it, especially in the corporate world. And what the particular company I worked for did, and most shredding companies, they have very insane terms and conditions. Very insane terms. Like if a real person reads these terms, there's no way you should sign these terms and conditions. 5-year contracts, and if you leave after a month, you have to pay out 100% of what you would have paid if you didn't cancel it in 5 years. Like just crazy things. And so I spent a lot of time at Shreddit withholding information. Not directly lying, but in all the terms of lying, pretty much lying, and avoiding and things along those lines, because I can't create resistance every sale. Like if it's so, just withholding information to just really keep it easy, and it just really killed me. It got to the point where I couldn't even work, let alone want to go to work. And what I found was that if I'm doing something that I don't enjoy, I can do it short term. Give me 6 weeks, give me 8 weeks. Like I'll do it to survive, but long term, there's no amount of money that will allow me to act in a way that makes me feel not good about myself. And so if I'm going to be an employee or be in the employee world, I need to be doing something that I genuinely believe isn't lying or manipulating or hurting someone or hurting someone at all. And so that's where the training is stemmed from, because I spent time being a regular rep, being in a world where, hey, this is just the way it is, like this is just what we do. We have to do it this way. And you never do. You could just change the terms, you can make the terms less wild, like there's no necessary need for those kind of things. And so that's where this stemmed from. If I'm remembering your question, is I can't do something that goes against my morals, or just not, I don't even know if morals would be the word, but I just can't do something long term and feel good about myself and continue to do it, I suppose. So that's where it stemmed from, I would say.
And I appreciate that. And I'm curious, like, if what kind of like internal growth and B, like external growth in terms of sales results or the ability to influence and success rates that maybe you've noticed when making that switch or between those two areas.
Did I notice that I cut out a little bit? Have I noticed a change in results based off of that switch?
Yeah, I guess I'm curious, like, is the close rate essentially the same between the two, or have you noticed a significant change in closing when you started using more of the influence rather than the manipulation?
Yeah. Well, I think it would depend on the person. Like for myself personally, I don't think much changed. I believe if you have the ability to make an individual feel comfortable and trust you, and they feel that you have their best interests at heart, then they're willing. They're not the best, but you're not. They feel that you don't have any malintent with them, then they will listen to your value. And whether your tactics are the reason they're listening, or if they're just listening in anyways, they're going to be listening to the value. So I feel like if you have the ability to have someone feel that they can trust you, then they're going to listen to the value regardless of if your tactics were, if your intent was malicious or not, or if it was a tactic, or if it was just straight up good communication. So I don't know if anything changed results wise. I probably sell a different type of person. I would say that as I roll into more like coherent selling, where it's logic and being consistent and then being logical, I feel like you're going to sell a more broad style of person. Whereas I've met reps who are just, tactic and slime to the T's, and you only sell a very niche market of person. But if you put enough work, you're gonna have great results, because those people will always be sold. They will always be sold by that style. Whereas I believe the more you adapt this, just speaking from trust and value, genuinely trying to understand a person, you'll sell a much more broad area of people, and you'll have to put in less work. So I think my results have stayed the same because I'm quite competitive, and I do just enough to win. But I have to do less work to win in the last few years, if that makes sense. So I suppose if I put in the same effort as I put in before, I'd probably have better results. But I'm naturally quite a lazy guy. I'm here to compete more than just see what I can do, unfortunately.
Ambitiously lazy.
There you go. 100%.
Awesome. And so then you took that, and I think where we went down this rabbit hole was taking that principle-based communication approach of influence and really distilling it down into like, what is this? How do I do it? And then using that to train the reps that you were training.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, from my, I believe sales is like leadership is sales, and sales is leadership. I believe they're the same thing. I believe leading someone towards something, whether it's a parent and a child, whether it's a coach and an athlete, whether it's a manager and a rep or anything, I believe they're all the same thing, to be honest with you. I don't believe there's too much difference in sales and leadership, besides the arena and maybe the consequences. Obviously it's quite a bit different, but I believe that the styles of the frame is the same. And I believe if you're a high level sales rep, then you're a high level leader, or at least you have the ability to be, if you have to put those work in. And I believe all communication, all relationships require trust and value. I'm sure, I believe you may have talked about this before. I don't believe you can have any results unless you have trust first and then value. And this comes to is down to a sales rep. If you're looking to sell a service, there's no value that you can provide if there's no trust. The person needs to trust you, and whether it's door to door and they trust you within 10 seconds, which is a ridiculous skill set, Or if it's a longer time sales cycle, like right now, I mean, it's probably about a 6 to 8 week cycle, give or take, to literally, like I said, a parent and a child. Like the goal for me with a parent and a child would be respect. And if the goal, if he's going to break it down to make it really simple, and if the child respects you, then they will take your advice, they will heed your life, they will follow the way that you've acted, and they won't respect you if they don't trust you, and they won't respect you if there isn't any value, and they need to trust you first, and it can't be the other way. And so trust must exist, value must exist, and if you have authority without trust, it creates rebellion. And so same thing with value without trust creates manipulation. And so same when these tactics come in, you're manipulating. So that's really where I've come from. And you talked about it earlier of maybe why I'm the way I am. And I believe it's probably from my parents. My parents haven't taught me a lot with their words, to be honest with you. My dad is a self-taught mechanic. He just got his ticket 25 years in. He's a heavy duty mechanic. He's been fixing equipment himself. He's insane. He's an intelligent dude, but he taught himself in the bush at a logging company, and just literally everything was broken and no one's coming. And so he had to teach himself how to fix it. So he's taught me so much by watching, but never with his words. He's not a huge dude with his words. And my mom's the same way. And they've both just lived their lives so well. And I've always had trust with them. I've always been able to trust them with issues, with going through. And because of this, I snuck out. I remember as a kid, I snuck out one time, and I felt so bad that I snuck out that I told them like the next day. Like I just didn't want to break their trust. And I wasn't a good kid by any means, but I never lied to my parents because there was so much trust there. And their value was shown to me by watching. And so what I've learned is that you can communicate completely by watching. If your body language is proper, if the way you're moving is proper, if your eye contact is proper, you can communicate more than with words. And I feel like that's where I've come through a lot is I feel the words don't matter nearly as much as the energy, the body language, and the intention. To answer your question from quite a while ago.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm curious, like you touched on it just briefly, the particularly in the door-to-door aspect, like you have like 10 seconds to build trust, make your case, and maybe they'll give you another 10 seconds to close. And like how I'm curious, like how from a foundational level you perform that, or that you go about succeeding in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also curious how you go about succeeding in areas like that of like building trust with, you mentioned the paper shredding is like with something that there isn't necessarily always value in, or like people say you got to believe in the product, and
yeah.
Do you think that's true? And how do you go when you don't believe in what you're selling, or that there is value in what you're selling?
Well, nobody cares about paper shredding, but there's tons of value. So that industry, like it's boring, like it's paper shredding, but the value is there. Like there's like sensitive documents, paper needs to be shredded. So can you sell something when there's no value? Probably, like you can lie about it, I suppose. It's and it depends on values perceived as well. So I mean, can you sell something with no value? No. There needs to be answering a need, or providing some value in a certain way, or convenience, value, or need. I would say one of the three. But when with door to door, how do I go about building trust? I believe was your question.
Yeah. In that micro window, and they open the door, and you're already starting at a disadvantage because they already have assumptions about what you're there to do.
100%. They know you're there to sell. The only question in their mind is, who are you and what are you selling? You're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we're good.
You can? Perfect. Yeah. So when you knock on a door, the only question in their mind is, who are you and what are you selling? That's the only question in their mind. It's It's not, hey, what's going on? How are you? Like, depending on where you are in the country, anyways. If you go to a super small town, you knock on a door and they're like, hey, what's up? Are you my neighbor? And they're excited to see you. It's very different. And it's also very easy to build trust because they're not jaded. But if you go to a bigger city, it's who are you and what are you selling? So right away, you're dealing with get away from me and get away from my door. So I would guess what comes to my mind with building trust. Do you remember when we went to Cochrane? We went to Cochrane.
Yep.
And we were knocking.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later. Yeah.
I like it. I want this comes to this because it's so little about them and it's all about you. It's so little about them and it's all about you. And so when we parked with my truck and we were facing, let's say we were facing one direction, and I was like, hey, we're going to start behind my truck. I want you to go on the left side, I'll go on the right. But then I was like, hey, I'm going to go to this blue house in the corner first. Do you remember that?
You said, I'm going to go sell this guy windows. And I was like, good luck with that. And I come from more the hard, do all the work, and in 1,000, you'll get 10. And yeah. I was like, good luck guessing. I'm happy to believe. And you came back like 5 minutes later, you're like, set the gear up.
Set the gear up, let's go. And so that was one home that was away from where I actually wanted to go, but when I'm in like, I worked for Ben Stewart, man. I don't know if you're around him too much. This dude is a master at controlling energy. That is his gravitas is ridiculous, man. And so making these statements of, I'm going to go the opposite direction and I'm just going to sell this house first. So I've made a decision already that I'm going to sell this person. And so with the way that I build trust so quickly is I want to answer this properly because I've spent quite a bit of time on this in particular. So bear with me here. Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully we make this happen. This is kind of what I've written down. Sales, it's not a transfer of information, it's a transfer of certainty. And if someone is certain, if I am certain that I do great work, cleaning windows is, it's easy to sell. It's going to be clean or it's not going to be clean for the most part. You really are transferring certainty that I am the right guy to clean your windows in this example. And so when I am certain that you will be happy, when I am certain that my value is much more than what I'm asking for price, when I am certain that by the end of this conversation, you will be happy, that certainty is how you build trust. And so when you are in a state and when you're in a flow and when you've done something, enough, or at least you've practiced enough to be able to transfer the certainty, the trust is built immediately. Like from the second, before they answer the door, I believe people trust me more because of what I am emitting into the world. I think people answer doors more for me because I'm just so determined to win. I am so determined to make it happen that people just want to see you succeed. They want to see someone out there who's doing something they would never do, who's doing it really well and who makes them feel good. They want to see that person succeed. So I believe building trust comes from just a certainty in what you're doing. You're not nervous, you're not confused, you're not worried if they want it or not. I'd never go to a door and ask a person if they want what I'm offering. I never go into a sales meeting and say, do you want this service? I know that somebody will want this because the value is there. Somebody will. I don't know who it is. So it doesn't matter if this person in front of me wants it or not. All I'm going to do is find out and transfer the certainty that this person has a need for what I have. They got dirty windows, as an example, and that I'm the right person to do it. And then we're going to have a conversation about it. And there's no sales. There's no tactics. There's conversation and understanding. And by the end of it, we're either in agreement that, hey, he doesn't want this, he can't afford it, or what have you, or we're going to clean the windows. So I believe, that's I believe it's a transfer of transfer of certainty. And if you're certain and you can allow another person to trust you and believe you, then the certainty is reciprocated.
I really like that like transfer of energy, and I've found it too. I have significantly less experience than you in those areas, but like, and also a little bit I find myself a little bit jaded, because one thing that you said is that as long as I know the service I'm providing is greater than the value that I'm asking for,
Okay.
then I'm committed. And you know, I've worked with I work with a mutual friend of ours from time to time, and he sells massive estates, right? And the numbers that you get off of cleaning windows on estates is like you have a $2,000 job.
Yeah.
And it's like, so, and there's that. So then when I go into these more cookie cutter neighborhoods, I have this like, I'm gonna, if I can sell one, I'll get $1,000, you know, that 50-50 split. And so I come in strong, and I'm like trying to measure, where's this person at? And I make a bunch of assumptions and tell myself stories about them, and then try and figure out, not necessarily like how much can I get out of them as possible, but like how high can I go before it becomes like inappropriate?
Yeah.
And then knowing that we're going to haggle, and I'm going to come down from there, right? And we're going to meet somewhere in the middle. And I've seen that with you, is that you actually do the opposite, is you kind of start on the lower end and you add all this value, and you get that hook and you get that energy right away, and then you carry that energy forward. And by the time the day's over, like you probably make just as much money, but you've had a much more joyful day.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially with the first one, you know, like it's been door to door, man. The only thing that matters is the neighbor. That's the only thing that matters, you know? And so that first one, like I remember with Racina, we went out and on a day, and the first sale was like a $70 sale. We had like a few windows, but you know, the neighbor, then the next door neighbor was sold for full as clean. The one across the street was sold for full as clean, and it was like $1,800 between the three, but the first one was 70. So door to door, it's just understanding that your confidence is what gets you yeses. And once you have a yes, once you have a name, once you have an example of that, you're a completely different person. You're a completely different person every single door after that first one. So that's where I've always came from, is getting into a flow of yeses. And then by the end of the day, a house that I might have sold for $2, I am selling for $350, because it is worth it. And I'm doing that much work, but I just worked my way up there to a confidence. So I'm making more money by the end of the day per job. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to you come to it from more of like that energy and that flow, and like having a successful day, like competitively from that competitive energy.
Yeah.
And I'm much more like the reluctant door to door guy, and I'm like, I need $1,000. Like, how can I make it while doing like the least amount of walking and work?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, there's nothing fun about door to door. I mean, I am the first person to say that I genuinely don't enjoy it. I do enjoy the competition. I do enjoy, you know, especially at CPS, there's 70 workers out in BC. You know, I'm a manager, but I'll hop out once in a while. And the only way I can do what's required to beat these guys who do it every day, especially in aeration, you know, these guys are doing every day. They're doing 20, 25, 30 lawns. Like it's not an easy task. And when I go out, I spend about 5 minutes, maybe 3, just talking smack to every single one of these guys, because I know at 11:45 a.m. I won't be able to walk anymore because I pushed myself so hard. And so when it's 7 p.m. or when it's 4 p.m., like, man, I'm spent. And if I haven't talked that smack, if I haven't put myself on, if I haven't made them think about me, then I'm just going to quit, you know? And so that's where CPS for me is so good, because I can't quit. Number one, there's a bonus. Number two, I need to beat these guys. You know, I cannot let them beat me after I talk smack. So for me, I've always used competition as my driving force, especially with CPS, just because door to door is not something I've ever enjoyed, but competition is for sure. Yeah, you and me are quite different on that aspect in some areas.
In some, yeah, but I do notice we've talked about this before, and because you don't do door to door like alone, and then I've made several very tragic weeks, whatever's the opposite of joy, anguish maybe, of like going out and doing door to door routes on my own. And it's like my energy starts like high, and it just gets lower and lower and lower, like in terms of my attitude, and my results get worse and worse and worse until I'm just like, I can't bring myself to go out again. I need backup, some kind of backup, right? Like for every no that I get, it's like, or for every door that I knock, it's like twice as likely to get a yes because there's a door getting knocked on the other side of the street.
Yeah. And you're saying that it took you weeks to get there? Sometimes?
So, like, I think I'm saying I've gone out to do, like, I'm going to do a week door-to-door run and like generate some cash, and I'm all by myself, and it's the same week every time. I'm like, I'm less inclined to go out. I start out in a worse off state each and every day because I didn't have whatever I needed. Maybe that's that competition aspect to like drive me forward and to pick the energy up. It's like the energy is always going down.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's that first one is so important, right? So like, especially if you're starting out with two people, I know I've went out with partners and in regard, even if it's a friend or not, I'm telling this person, I remember we had an all-star competition and there was a worker who was it was the end of the season, but it was his last day. He zeroed, and it was a worker I really liked. He was a young, sharp guy. And I was like, well, man, I'm going to go tomorrow. I was like, you can partner with me. Don't say yes yet or don't say no. I said, if you do partner with me, we will never see each other though. I said, all you're going to get from me is a text and an address, and you're going to clean all day long. And but I said, at the beginning of the day, what we're going to do is we're going to go in two different directions. And the first person to get a sale, keep selling. And the other person is going to clean all day. And man, I will clean for you. I'm faster. I've got more experience. I will clean for you all day long, man. All you got to do is knock. I said, but the first person to get that sale wins. And then both people are sprinting, not for sales. They're sprinting to win. And when you answer a door and you're out of breath and you're smiling and you're stoked and you're making fun of your friend down the street that you're competing with, some guy who's, a business owner or a sports guy and hasn't cleaned his windows in 8 years, he's just like, yeah, whatever, dude, how much? Like it's the energy and it's the bringing people together that works, because at the end of the day, you have a home, you have dirty windows, like $300 or $350 to clean them isn't a big deal, but it's that competition that brings it in, and it keeps it fun for you instead of you just trying to go find someone who wants their windows cleaned, which is very tough, because they would have called the company. they would have already booked someone if they wanted it. Like, it's not like it's hard to find a window cleaning company. You're trying to find people who like you and have some expendable income, essentially. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. The role of the other human in that kind of dynamic, rather than trying to do things all by yourself and overcome yourself without like that support, that leadership, network, and communication.
Yeah.
And like not going out there to sell the service is like, going back to what you said earlier, is like the value that's being provided is like, there's not, a clean window or a dirty window. Unless it's a picture window, it's not super important.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's no longer about the windows, it's about something else.
Exactly. Because and I bring it back to myself. I would never pay for window cleaning.
Me either. That's
like, I've lived in big home. Like I haven't owned a home for some time, but even when I did, like, I cleaned them myself once in a while. But man, I look out a window and it looks clean. So I couldn't. If I'm treating everybody the same, like I said, if I treat every person like I treat myself, I'd treat these people like they would also never buy window cleaning. And the only reason they would is because of the group, because of your neighbor getting it done, because of the one-time thing, because of the energy, and just I need to get everybody into a different mind state if I'm going to have my day, because I personally would never buy window cleaning. But if I had someone come to my door who was fired up, who was stoked, who knew my neighbor John, who knew my neighbor Jack, and he knew John down the street, and he's excited and he's killing it, and he's younger and he's just loving it, I probably would, just because he's loving life and he's excited and he's doing something cool. I don't want to miss out on this person's success. So that's what I have always tried to create, and that's what Ben Stewart is taught to a T. Is just getting everybody involved for something bigger than the service that we're offering.
Wow, that's incredible. I identify a lot with it because that's how I buy. I'm like, I will literally do everything myself. I have no need for whatever you're selling. And like, if you come to me and I see like if you've got something to learn and your sales tactics are subpar, I'm like, go practice some more. But if it's like high energy, like in the zone, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'll pay. Maybe it's because I want to be part of that success, or maybe it's just because I like to reward people who have been putting in the effort for over a consistent period of time.
Yeah, we're very similar there. There's if you've been in Canadian Tire in the past 10 years in the summertime, there's that company that sells the 3 bottles of spray. One's like for the windows. Right? So this is a true story. I have in my house 4 unopened packs of those. 4 of them, because 4 different times.
That was like a $200 kit.
I think it's like $80 or $60 or something. It wasn't too bad, but I've got 4 of them, and I know, obviously, based off of my life, that I'll never open these packs. I'll never get into them. But the reps that have come to me, they killed it. They made sense. They made me laugh. They made me feel comfortable. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, I'll take it. I open up my car or my car at the time, and there's 1 more unopened there, and I just bought another one, put it beside it. Like I love the art of sales. I love the art of communication. I love someone who makes me feel comfortable. And that feeling alone is worth $60. That feeling alone is worth $80, let alone the value. The stuff's there. Like maybe somebody will use it, but the feeling for me of somebody making me feel like I can trust them and being able to explain the value is worth $80 to me. It's worth it.
Wow. Yeah, it's like you're buying their energy rather than their product.
Yeah, and if you can understand that is most sales, that's where everything, if you're no longer searching for yeses, if you're no longer curious if somebody wants what you have to offer, that's when mastery happens. That's when, like in aeration in the CPS world, you've got an $80 service, and guys are going out and they're doing 35 a day, and they're making $800, $900 take home. Like it's not normal. But mastery comes from understanding that it's not about what you're doing. It's about who you are and what you're creating and what the feeling that you're emitting.
Wow. And so I'm curious now, kind of how that has all translated into like everything you're doing presently. Like I
never even got into that.
Yeah, like your current role, like what you guys are selling right now, and I know you have is it Drader
Holdings, yeah. Drader Holdings,
yeah.
And so I suppose after CPS, I did that for about 5 years. I finished, I don't know, 2 years ago now. And the reason I finished is just because of the extreme hours. It's just a little bit too crazy. And myself and Racina, we live in Mexico now. And so what we were doing, we were looking for a remote role where we could essentially get ahead and pay our bills, but be able to live kind of wherever we wanted. And we found it's a power sports company, and we essentially just sell trailers, quads, ATVs, or sleds, side by sides, kind of everything there. We've been doing it remote for about 4 months now, and with Drader, I'm actually we're the first successful attempt at having somebody do this at this company remotely. And so what I've been working with the owners with is and I just started this 4 days ago now, is I'm actually running the remote team. And I'll be taking this remote team from right now to me and Racina, and I've got one other, and I'm just going to be integrating pretty much everything that I've done with leadership, but into the remote side. And we're taking Ride Motor Company from a physical location to completely remote as we expand. Like our plan is, they want to go into the States, they want to go into different industries. And what I'm looking to build is a team of absolute killers remote, who instead of needing a location, we can just go open up a location, but have 100% remote sales reps who are just going to be powerful enough to take on it doesn't matter what you're selling once you understand what we're talking about. We can switch from power sports to I don't even know anything. Like we can literally apply a team of 5 to 10 reps to any industry, but because we understand what we're talking about, that if there's value, you can sell it. And if you understand that trust and value equals results, you can bring it anywhere. So it relates into the fact that it doesn't matter what you're selling if you understand this. It doesn't matter who you're leading if you understand this. It doesn't matter if you're leading a team of of 18-year-olds into a new sales job, doesn't automatically leading a team of engineers who have been in their field for 25 years and now you're taking over the company. The leadership and the sales, if you understand these two things, are the same. If you can build trust and you can add value, you can have the result you're looking for. And so that would be how it correlates, is that you can do anything. Truly, you can move into any role. You can sell any service. So we switched from lawn care to I was doing fractional management and business development plans, to selling power sports and quads, and it's all the same. Like I've been you can really do anything that you want when you understand this, especially in sales and leadership. So that would be how it correlates, is that you can really move into whatever area you like, and that is working at the time.
Yeah, that's I like the underlay of leadership. Like, I think leadership is a lot like philosophy, and I would agree that leadership and sales would be hard to untangle those two concepts, or at least effective sales.
Yeah.
And philosophy is this thing, like that's what I studied in university, and it's like you're never gonna approach somebody and impress some employer by being like, I have a degree in philosophy, right? It's like, it's seen as this useless kind of discipline, or like, I don't know, mental masturbation type of thing. And but actually, when you understand philosophy at like a foundational level, and it's like ways of thinking about things beyond how we currently think about things, and you can take that mindset, you can actually go into any role or any situation in your entire life, and if you can think beyond how you've been trained to think already, you can make impressive progress. And so it like sits underneath, and it benefits all, even though none are looking for it. And I think that leadership is a lot the same. It's like it benefits all, even though nobody technically is looking for they're looking maybe for leadership more in the management sense, but you don't find people like often looking for, I'm looking for a leader to like learn this leadership outside of like a direct application of management. But yet people who are skilled or trained in that leadership actually benefit everything equally, and like it boosts everything.
Totally. And the reason that people aren't actively looking for it is you really only need leadership in times of trouble, in times of strife, and in times of dire need. That's when leaders emerge in real world. Like we have presidents, we have during wars and during crazy times, leadership is required for survival. And in regular life, especially North America, like you don't need anything to survive anymore. And this goes to your topic of, as we were talking about, as technology advances, do we need the need for, and I can't remember the exact verbiage, but the need for human interaction and leadership, is it going to become less, or is it going to become more? How is it going to be affected? And that was one of the big thoughts here, is that we're so, even living in Latin America, going into Peru, going into Spain, going into Mexico here, every single person is surviving still. If they don't work, not every person, but the majority of the people, I apologize, are working to live. And if they don't work, they don't live. If they don't create this food, if they don't actually act a certain way, if they don't pay attention while they're walking on the street, we don't have the right of way in Mexico like we do in Canada. And so the common sense and certainty in who they are is much higher compared to in North America, because it's so comfortable. It's so comfortable in North America. And so that would go towards exactly what you're saying, whereas leadership is the ability to absorb uncertainty. And so that's why when times are tough, the leader comes out and he absorbs the uncertainty because he is certain. And so it's very evident in the workplace when when a proper leader absorbs uncertainty, everybody acts in a very high capacity. Whereas when leadership is creating uncertainty that was already there, making it worse, then it's just, you've been in workplaces like that where it's just constant emotional up and down and craziness. It's wild. So that's if you can absorb the uncertainty in any area, everybody benefits. by being certain yourself. And then influence, I know we were talking about that as well, and human influence. It's what happens when people trust your response. If people trust who you are and how you respond to things during tough times, that's how you influence others. Like, you know, you'll hear me reference Ben Stewart lots throughout this. And if that's a man that I trust with my entire life. If we go to war, I'm flying to wherever he's at. You know, like this is a dude that I will follow because of who he is with his leadership and his influence is just so absolute. So yeah, I feel like as we move towards more technology, which is, you know, something that we're going to be talking about more, human influence and human leadership becomes more valuable because it's so less common, which is what we're seeing in North America.
Supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, do you think that can people trust technology? Like, if you were talking to a voice chatbot on the phone and you couldn't really tell that it wasn't a human,
yeah,
you know, does it have the same capacity to generate influence, leadership, trust, and value as a human does?
So this is where I spent a lot of my time thinking. I've been talking to a few different people, and I've been very surprised at how many people disagree with me on this in my circle. Right now, I use ChatGPT pretty much as a tool for most of my life. You know, it's a way that I can have. It's essentially I have myself, because I've trained it to think and act and agree with the things that I think. I've had myself, so I can just talk to myself back and forth. I can talk to myself. I can reword word tracks. I can create huge projects and have it just can completely be able to make it my own without having to spend all of the time and knowing how to make something look pretty. So I use ChatGPT a lot, but if I trust Chat completely because of where Chat's source is, and the source of all of ChatGPT's information is humans. You can actually look at the reference of where every single thought and idea that it has, it comes from a source that was written by a human. And so, can I trust ChatGPT without humans? I don't think so. Because number one, it doesn't exist, but number two, all of its knowledge is from humans. It's not from other robots. So can it emit the same value? Like if I'm talking to it over the phone, in a short term, most likely, can it answer the questions right? Can it have really great timing? Can it like, I feel like ChatGPT understands me better than I freaking understand myself, man. Like, have you ever, I don't know if you went into it and just said like, hey, tell me my top 5 traits and tell me my top 5 flaws. And like, there's a whole bunch of really cool things you can have. And like, it just has examples of why all of the things they're saying is real. And to me, it seems freaking better than I could explain myself, you know? And so can it do those things? For sure. Will it get to the point, like, it just depends where. I mean, like if like one of my buddies talked about how, like, man, like, you don't think in 10 years they're going to be cold calling every single person and selling all these services via an app? I'm like, yeah, they are for sure. But are they not going to have also a button on my Bell account where it says don't allow any AI calls? You know, like, we're going to control the robot still. And so like we're going to, if people completely adapt to having AI into our lives with sales, can they do it? For sure, with small things that need to happen. I get it. But I mean, if I know I'm talking to a robot, if I have, let's say, I don't know to answer your question. I feel like basic small things can be done, but I feel like the in-person emotion and energy will always trump. Yeah, I don't know. Just because I see so much value with Chat, you know, and there's and the, like you were talking about philosophy, the philosophy conversations I get in with this robot blow my mind, you know? And so it's tough, man. It's tough.
Yeah, that's a very profound point is that like chat is human in that sense, or these AIs are human in that sense, is that their seed of their selfness is human in its source. And I think you're right, is that as we right now, what everybody wants, like you're not playing the game anymore if you don't have AI integration at some level of your business. And I think where that carries forward to is AI integrated in everything, and that's all that there is. And at that point, you won't be playing the game anymore if you don't have human integrated into your business. And like it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I don't believe that the human will ever lose the critical paramount role of and being able to provide those things like empathy and insight.
Yeah. And there's one thing I wrote this down here. Technology amplifies intelligence. Same with when the internet came out, like so much knowledge came in, and that it removed so much of the curiosity within us. You find children so much, like the curiosity is gone, but now it amplifies intelligence, but humans transmit the meaning. And they will always do that. And I kind of wrap it around with my trust and value. We trust it because of humans. We trust the information it's providing us because of the human base. And that's right now, in I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years or 1 year or whatever. Everything's changing. But when issues happen and trust is broken, the AI currently, from what I can tell, isn't going to fix the broken trust. It's going to be a human coming out with a new program, coming out with 5.4, coming out with 5.8, and things along these lines. So when trust is broken, it still requires a human to fix it currently. And so you can't have the result, which is, I don't even know what, you can't have a normal society without trust and value. Look at what happens with the government when trust is broken. It doesn't matter that they build our roads. It doesn't matter that they add all this value to our lives because we don't trust them. You don't hear people talking about all of the things that the government do positively when trust is broken. But when trust is there, you hear you're able to see the value. But so I feel like with AI and as we move towards more in like technology, the trust still comes from humans, and especially when something goes wrong, when mistakes happen, when glitches happen, when things go wrong. I think and I believe humans will always need to be the ones to fix it.
And so do you see a future where, like, I can picture that the more that we move towards that state of things is like the less humans required, I think would be a common argument. And like all of these humans, there's going to be a small handful of whatever elite who fix and train and tweak the machines, and the rest of the humans will be in, I don't know, some type of destitute poverty and like I guess before I kind of share my thoughts on that counter argument, I'm just curious to get where your mind goes in that future.
Less humans required. Well, I mean, it's tough to say. If we're looking at 100 years ago and how little technology there was 100 years ago, but I don't know how many less people we had back then that don't actually have that information. We can look it up. So 100 years ago, there was 2 billion, and now there's over 8 billion. So 100 years ago, almost no technology, I would say, compared to now. And we had 2 billion people. Now there's 8 billion people. And how much technology do we have with canning facilities and with factories and things along these lines that remove the need for a person to be there? But still to this day, we have nowhere near enough people. 8 billion is not enough. You hear some types of the government talking about how overpopulation, we need to have less, and then you hear a very trusted side of the rest of the world saying that we have nowhere near enough people to actually maintain everything we currently have. And I'm much more on that side. Like there's a lot of world, there's a lot of earth, there's a lot of things that need. So I think that I don't think we'll need less people. I don't think we'll need less people.
Do you think that the people who say in another 10 or 15 years and say we have 10 billion people on the planet, and do you think that there's a large section of them who are directionless isn't the word, who aren't being utilized because of the role of technology?
Oh, I'm going to need you to repeat that. Give me 1 sec here. Just cutting out a little bit.
Test.
Okay, try it again. There we go. I got you back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious, like if we need more people for everything, and meanwhile artificial intelligence is taking over a lot of the roles in the workplace, and we're having like a smaller subsect needed to like train and repair and all of this stuff. Are you a believer in the argument that most of the increased population, say we have 10 billion, are actually not going to have any functional role in society?
I haven't really thought about it too much. Does somebody need to be producing to have a functional role in society? I suppose would be where my brain goes. Are we going to have more people who are caretakers and more people who are in roles that are benefiting the individual like spirit maybe, or the individual like livelihood, instead of producing something? I suppose we have more of a community. They could potentially create more of a community focus of people instead of someone who's focused on producing or working for a company. That might be where my brain goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I identify a lot with it, and that's where I come from too. Is we hear this, like there's a lot of talk about what universal basic income, and I don't agree with like the socialist kind of side of that, but I think that conceptually it presents the right framing. Is with the advance of technology, is you look at something like an Optimus robot and a full self-driving Tesla car. It's like these things their technology, they cut people out of the workforce, out of their roles, and then they generate, but we are in those roles to generate money to live our life. And so then these machines will now generate that money for us, and we will no longer need to be productive. We can just live our life, like in a form of almost like the UBI, but you're actually generating it by your participation in the technological revolution. And that will actually need to find, like you're saying, find some way to identify or become ourselves, our isness, without having that label of productive role, like of work and jobs. And I don't know, I've never really valued work and jobs. I just do them because I need money to buy things.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's obviously like the best case scenario thoughts that I think we're coming out with. But yeah, it's very interesting. I don't actually know. Have you watched Moonhaven?
No.
On Netflix? Essentially, the world has ended by AI, and they've created, or just by us, essentially. We just destroyed the world, and they've created an AI that you can create an area, a bubble of livable environment anywhere. And so they actually put this technology onto the moon, and they create a whole section of the moon that's like green grass and water, and everybody lives there. And it's essentially is touching base on this. And in this Moonhaven area, there's no jobs, there's no money, there's no finances. They're just living as a community, and their goal is to bring it down to earth and fix everybody, and fix the AI reads human mistakes and then teaches this community how to live without all the human corruption and whatnot. It's quite interesting.
Wow.
and humans find a way still, obviously, but it touches base onto this quite well, and it's humans find a way, man, to mess everything up, no matter what. So it's I don't know what is going to happen or how it's going to look, but it's crazy times. It's crazy times.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I think
Yeah,
we're on Prime and Apple TV right now, but there's a lot of good stuff on Netflix. I've been getting more testy with we pay these companies, or like 10 years ago, these companies come out and they're like, you don't want to be advertised to and have to wait. So pay us some money and we'll let you watch television without advertising. And now I'm seeing I was watching the new Fallout show the other day. There's like 6 ad breaks in it. I'm like, I'm paying you money. I'm like, from a business standpoint, brilliant. Like, now you want more money, and I'm stuck in this hole. But I mean, from an end user state, I'm like, well, I don't know why I'm paying these guys anything. I just go back to pirating.
Right? It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's interesting.
Awesome. Well, let's do a little bit of a pivot. I was curious about a couple of stories. I'd be curious to know, for you to tell us a story about one of your favorite interruptions, or like the way that you either you started a conversation with somebody or somebody started a conversation with you.
I was doing quite a bit of thinking about this one. I'm very, very bad at remembering stories about myself, and but a lot of my coworkers and really good friends, they always tell me these funny stories about stuff that happened to me. So I called about 4 of my buddies, and this was one of the questions I asked them. Like, I need some help here because I can't remember. And this one in particular, I didn't have too much help with, but I'm in Mexico right now, and the business acumen in Mexico. I love business. I love sales. I love communicate. I love good communication. It's one of my favorite things. And in Mexico, it's predominantly quite terrible. There's not a ton of business acumen taught, or maybe it's just because of tourists, or probably the language barrier as well is probably a big one. But like most of the business training and most of the things they do, as you're walking past, if they're selling tacos, they're like, tacos, come here, tacos. If they're selling weed, it's like, yo, marijuana, it's like cocaine. Like they just say the word that they have, and that's pretty much the extent of it. And I've been doing so much. And then there's a couple businesses, this guy named Hector, and he is in the street, and he'll see you from about 10 feet away. He'll make eye contact. He's like, brother, what's up? And his English isn't great. He's like, you're good? He's like, you're good? He's like, man, I'm doing great, man. He's like, I've got great food, man. He's like, you love it here. You love it here. Like, I'm like, all right, well, let's go in. Like the same restaurant as the person down the street. So, so that interaction, it's one of many, but I mean, it just goes to show, like, my favorite interactions are the ones where the people actually understand what works, I suppose. And we worked at booths for CPS as a job fair booth, and if you've been to a job fair before, there's 100 to 200 booths of all companies offering a job. And this is Ben Stewart 101, man. So this is him just killing it. The booths would always have a bunch of room behind it, and then people would sit behind the booths and have all their stuff behind it. The second we get to the job fair, we pull our signs in front, and we pull our table all the way back, and we leave our chairs back, and we all stand in front of the booth with a whole bunch of room. So there's tables beside us, and then we have this big square of space. And what we do is we all stand, the 3 of us, 4 of us, and when someone walks by, it's like, hey man, have you heard of us? Hey brother, have you heard of us before? And then now during these job fairs, we get 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 700 applicants, compared to someone beside us who sits there for 4 hours and watches us and gets like 10, gets like 11. They're just an employee.
Wow.
Like, we get hundreds. Like, the entire time we're at a booth, we are surrounded by people. And so that would probably be the most effective interruption that I've ever seen, is Canadian Property Stars at a job fair booth, because it's just complete dominance from a guy who understands trust and value. You know, we all have jobs.
Amazing.
The one that we're talking about is the hardest job in this room, but why are we getting 700 applicants compared to someone who's getting 10 or 15 or 30? You know, it's all because of the interruption.
Yeah, the interruption based in these principles, and if principles are derived down into like truth, is like you're the ones who are sitting in the truth.
Mm-hmm. We're the ones who know how to make somebody feel certain while they are feeling uncertain in that room. Mm-hmm. They're feeling uncertain. Wow. They're feeling, and it's genuinely, it's the hardest job in that room. The hardest job by far. It's the only job that's 100% commission. It's the only job where you physically must murder yourself in order to succeed. It's the only job where you're going to get told no 300 times on your first day. You're going to fail for a week straight before you're even good. It's the hardest job in the room, but because we make them feel certain, because we understand trust and value, the result is astronomically higher.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
The next story I'm curious about is one of the craziest IRL stories from your life. Could be business, could be personal, whatever. Just tell us a little bit about the wild side of Nik.
The wild side. Okay. Okay.
So that doesn't have to be the wildest, you know. We might not want to go there, but
no, we're going to stay away from that aspect. Yeah, we're there initially. I was thinking successful wild interaction, like something where that came through. While I ponder this, I might like to hear yours.
Oh, interesting. A wild IRL story. I was just telling this story the other day, actually. I forget how it came up, but there was this one time when a buddy and I, we were mid-teens, and we were driving away from my parents' place where we hung out, and it's kind of this isolated neighborhood. And there's this dude, and he's huge, like tatted all up the arms and the throat, and he's walking up towards he's a couple blocks away, but there's not much places to go. And we see him. We've never seen him before. We pull over in the car and just start up a conversation. Hey man, what's up? And we wind up inviting him into the car. We were going to party somewhere else. Okay. So we invite him into the car to come to this party with us. And no clue who he is, but we're getting to know him. And we wind up at this party on the other side of town. There's a lot of alcohol and substances going around, and somebody had ketamine. And so we're all doing this ketamine, and this dude rips this huge rail and heads off. He winds up in a bedroom at some point later and K-holes. And he's like over on his head is resting on the post of the bed, and he's sitting on the bed. And he's like, so he's fully conscious. For anybody who doesn't know what K-hole is, he's fully conscious, but he has zero control of his body for like 12 hours. And typically when people do that, you make fun of them, you draw weird things on their faces, and when we found him in there, my bro actually went in and was making sure he was all right. He put a blanket around him, put a little pad between the bedpost and his forehead, and just made sure nobody bugged him all night. And the next morning, we're sitting there, and this dude comes lumbering out of the bedroom. And it's just, it's me, one other guy, and my bro. And he points at my bro, who picked him up, and he goes, "Come here," and takes him off into the bedroom. And about 20 minutes later, this dude walks out, doesn't look at us, and just leaves. And my bro comes out of the room, and he's shook. And he tells us the story that this guy just told him. So, bro had gotten in some trouble with some gangs, and they called a guy out of Ontario to come kill him. And this was the guy who was walking up to the house where he knew we hung out, which was my parents' house. We wound up picking him up and bringing him to the party where we were going. And the conversation that he had was, I was conscious last night and I was out of it, and you guys didn't take advantage of me or manipulate me, or you were actually quite kind. And he said, for that reason, he said, I'm not going to kill you. He said, I'm just going to tell them that the job is done and I'm going to leave town.
Crazy.
I was thinking back and I was like, of all that's one of those stories that makes me think like reality can't be real.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? Just the like, how many dudes do you randomly pick up and bring to a party in your life? One, probably.
One, especially after that.
That's true. Yeah, that is nuts. That is nuts. Yeah, I mean, as far as wild stories for myself, man, I've got a lot of them. I got a lot of them. Might have to take a pass on this one, man. Might have to take
That's
a pass.
all good as well.
Yeah, I've got a lot of sales stories and things like that, but as far as wild goes, I'm not the best storyteller, man, unfortunately.
You got any crazy sales stories?
I got funny closes and whatnot. One that I had thought I might bring up here, and it relates to what we've been talking about with bringing in certainty and sales. Is with CPS. I was there for 5 years. For the last 4, I did the training, the sales training. So a group of 15 to 70 dudes I would do all the trainings with. And one thing I started doing in my first year, and my intention with this was to teach objection and overcoming. But I would pick the 2 or 3 best reps in the room, and then I would have 2 or 3 other people volunteer, and I would have them stand in a row of 5. We were going to do 5 or 6, and we were scripting, but I was the knocker, they were the homeowner. And the only job they had was to tell me no. Just tell me no. Tell me no, and I can overcome your objection. Like, give me a reason or don't give me a reason or whatever the case is. I want you guys to see what the flow looks like. And it started off in the first year of where I would do this, every 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes with the same people. I would get an objection or I wouldn't, but I would roll through the script, and then the part of the script is, in order to get you a price, I got to see how much grass you have. Is a gate to the left, to the right? And I would 100% of the time either overcome an objection or overcome nothing and get into the backyard. And every time I would make fun of this person. Right before I went to another person and just say, dude, all you got to do is tell me no. And on a third person, I would always say, like, dude, you don't have any grass, right? Like, we're standing in a shop. Like, that this is concrete, right? It's concrete, and you don't own a home, right? And the fourth person would still let me into their backyard. and it's turned into a 4-year streak where no one has ever told me no. I'm like, if someone's insane and they just start going off and being crazy, I'm like, well, that's not it. Like, just be real. But this story and this training and this I can't remember I can't think of the verbiage, but this practice turned into me understanding and being able to train more that what the logic isn't there when the person is feeling certain. They're not thinking logically if they are certain. So when I am able to do this training with a person in front of me who has no home, who has no concrete, who has no grass, only has concrete, but they still say to me with almost no objections, yeah, my backyard's to the right, when their only job is to tell me no. It's really taught me how little your words matter and how certainty is the answer. And it's related to what I've been talking about, but that would be 4 years straight, top reps, best guys, like, just tell me no. But when you are certain, and when you are certain, when you make sense and you make someone feel a certain way, they just let you in their backyard, even when it's just a shop. And so I mean, as far as that was a story I'd written down, that just really I felt emphasized what we were talking about, of just how even in a fake scenario, someone just wants to be a part of certainty, I suppose.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's
Is it?
that's a pretty crazy story.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. It started off with I'm going to teach some objections to literally me, and I just knew no one would tell me no. I knew that I would have 100%. I'll let you into my backyard rate, and then it turned into training why people did that. And then I started training of why I knew everybody was going to say no, not because I'm fancy, not because I script well. I don't have good words. I don't have flawless like verbiage with it, but my certainty and what I make them feel makes them want to say yes to me, even when they don't have a home or grass, in this example. So yeah, it was interesting. It completely changed from let's do objections to why can't you tell me no? And it's not because I'm fancy. It's not because I have better words. It's like my scripting is basic. I'm not a fancy scripter. Like there's some dudes in sales who are just flawless, man. They don't miss a beat and they have all these overcomes and objections. And I'm one of the most basic, but it's all about how you make a person feel.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
No, of course.
I got a few questions left I'd like to go through.
Okay.
I guess the first, like the main on the main list is who is someone that should be interviewed on this podcast that you can connect me to?
Well, one of the buddies I called, his name's Chris Singh. He was a counterpart with me at Shred It. So he was, I know it's a rep. He's been in B2B sales for quite some time, 20, 25 years plus. And he is one of the best. We're very different, myself and Chris. And he's taught me a lot of how to train because my main selling factor is convenience. Typically, I'm typically a convenience seller, and Chris has two children. He's an amazing dad, and he sells based off of fear. He sells based off of fear and comfort and safety. Fear, comfort, and safety because he thinks like that. He thinks very different. He thinks he's totally different than myself. And because of that, we sell different people, and you just have to understand reps are different. He's someone who completely disagrees with a lot of what I think about with AI and moving forward. And he's also, so he was a sales rep counterpart. He's been a district sales manager now for a few years, and he just started another role. So he's in leadership, and he has thoughts, and he has different thoughts than myself. So Chris Singh would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I would appreciate that introduction at some point in the future, and we'll see if we can get him on.
Absolutely.
And then I have, I'm wanting to do the three of the same questions. Like this question list may shift from guest to guest or week to week, but there's three that I want to cover that are a little bit off topic, and you have not had time to prepare ahead of time. So the first one is which parts of who you are today were shaped by pressure or hardship, and which parts came from conscious choice?
Well, pressure and hardship is definitely contextual. Like what's considered pressure and hardship. I would say everything is shaped by pressure and hardship. How much pressure and how much hardship depends on the person and what their lives are. But I would say everything is shaped by that. Sport. We can go down to sports. Started playing sports when I was probably 4. I started wrestling in grade 6. I started training with U of A when I was 17, and we were doing 7 days a week. 2 a days for a lot of the days as well. And I remember during those times having no money and literally I would eat no breakfast. A lady at a Fat Frank stand with Canadian Tire would give me a free Smoky. She knew I was poor. Some days I would get a pop, some days I would get a Smoky, and she took this lady saved my life, but she would give me a free Smoky every day. And then I would buy a banana and a protein bar on the way to practice. And then that's what I would eat. And then when I got home, I would have like a frozen chicken nugget, like 5 of them. And it was because I just had no money. And I remember never once thinking, this is hard. I remember never once thinking like this, why am I doing this? This is what we did. And now things are hard. Things are good now. And, like you complain. So yeah, I think if you aren't going through pressure and hardship, you get soft. So I would say every good part of what I have is created by pressure and hardship, and every bad part is being created by comfort and pleasure.
That's powerful.
Big ebbs and flows of comfort and pleasure, man. That'll ruin a guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had this thought the other day that we're seeking these various freedoms from the time we're born. We're like, we want to be free to, choose whether or not we go to the bathroom right now and choose what we get to eat. And then we want to be able to choose what we do in the day and who's controlling us and and we keep achieving these pieces of freedom, but we're actually, by doing so, we're enslaving ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I have every freedom I could ever want in my life. And I'm like, and it's those freedoms that are now the chains, right? It's like, okay, I got to choose, who I married and what I'm doing professionally and where I'm headed and the things that I'm learning, and I get to live in my own house. And it's like, yeah, now I have to maintain those relationships and I have to pay for those houses and I have to actually follow through with all of that learning. And it's this weird dichotomy, like the yin yang of what we're seeking. We usually get the opposite of, but sometimes in the best kind of way.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, whereas I was looking up, the definition of success and what people's definition was. And like you said, we've been chasing these things forever, and it's freedom. A lot of people talk about freedom and financial independence and financial stability, and just being able to create and decide, and just move through your life without living in fear or living in chaos or living in dependency is really what we're all searching for. And it doesn't come by lack of action. It doesn't come by lack of habits, unfortunately. So yeah, just like you said, it's the ebbs and flows are crazy, and what we're really searching for isn't really what we want a lot of the time, because it takes something else. It takes something completely different to actually maintain that.
Wow. Yeah. How about, Nik, what do you believe reality actually is? This is question 2. Beneath all of the roles and the labels and the stories that we tell ourselves, what is reality, and how did you come to believe that?
Community. I would say it's people that are in your life, people that you spend time with, it's people that you are building with, the people that are actually transferring energy with you regularly. I would say just more and more trust with a person is the goal. And if you can have a community of people that you genuinely are able to trust and you want to trust, that's really what we're all looking for, I would say.
So people in relationships.
That's it.
I can agree with that. I think a lot about like a door even, and a door it was made by people, thought up by people, and it has a relationship with the inside of the room and the outside of the room, and that relationship is the only thing that makes it what it is.
I guess, suppose, eh? Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I mean, what else is there? Like, why do I want so much money? Like, why do I want to make millions of dollars? Like, what? It's to spend more time with the people. I don't want to be alone on my yacht.
Yeah.
I want all of these things, but it's always just to spend more time with the people I want to spend time with.
Do you think that gets flipped sometimes? Like the money gets chased for the money's sake, like energetically, even though, the logical rationale for it is the people and the time?
Depends on which money. There's times where you need to pay your bills There's times where I'm not going to make rent tomorrow, and so the money you're making is not for community, it's for survival. How's your heat?
I think it's going pretty well. I think I got a good ripper going back there, but it needs more management and handling. That I'm just gonna live with it. I'll figure it out later. When I did that thesis presentation, I came out here and I just cooked the garage, man. That was the first time I ever got it really hot and it like held heat, and I was like delayering over the hour until I got into the flow and ignored it, and then I turned around and there was no wood, no coals, no ash.
Damn. Just burned right through. That's crazy. So yeah, that would be my answer. And what about you?
Reality, I consider myself, I mean, I do believe that there's only people in relationships in the world, and that everything and even those are an illusion to an extent. Like, I don't believe I don't believe there's other people. And if there's only people in relationships and there's not other people, then there is no relationship. But not in a self-important sense. Like, I don't believe I'm the only person, but I believe that since I don't believe in other people, or that they actually literally exist, that I probably don't exist either.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that's where my brain my brain fails to like pull into language exactly like what experience and reality is that I think it's just like nothingness, like a raw energy that there's some point of like perception in. And I think that perception has enough power to like create itself and create other perceptions and to like manifest the raw chaos into like coherent experiences.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the only thing there is God.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Freaking hell. I can't even grasp a lot of the concepts that you are understanding and putting into words, such as the number one, the verbiage, and then just the deep understanding of how much time you spent on it is just above my pay grade.
Well, it's the one thing I've never had to set to the side is my own mind.
Absolutely. Well, especially when you've been awake more than the average person, like you're just gonna think more. Yeah.
Okay, I got one standard question left here. If everything you've built were taken from you tomorrow, what truth about being human would you still trust enough to rebuild your life on?
What truth about being human would I trust to rebuild my life on?
Yeah, like you lose all your experiences, all of your skill sets. You're basically like a 30-ish-year-old baby.
And there's one thing.
But you can keep one thing.
I don't know. One thought. I can keep one thought.
You could keep a thought or a skill set or a single experience, anything.
Oh, communication.
Okay.
Yeah. Being able to communicate, for sure.
And you'd be able to take that seed and rebuild everything you are out of it.
That's all I have now, man.
I only had one thing and you're going to let me keep one?
I honestly, I believe so. Like you can like right now in Mexico, Racina is a student, man. She's a student. She can learn, she can study, the amount of information she can just learn and reciprocate from just sitting and hearing it is insane. I have never been a student. I passed high school with 52s and got out of there as quick as I could. Never learned how to study. Out in the world of Mexico, she can speak Spanish. She can understand, she knows the words. She knows the words really well. She knows what the word is, but when they're speaking it, it's quicker. Most of the time, I know what they're saying and she doesn't. And I don't know any Spanish words. Like
Interesting.
I know some basics, but like when out in the real world of a restaurant or somebody on the street and someone's come up and they're talking to us and they're saying this, she's trying to listen, but it's so fast. And I'm like, oh, this is what they want. I was like, this is what they're saying. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, no, he's telling us, like, the waitress came up and she was telling us, like, hey, my shift is changing. Would you guys mind clearing up now? And like, so the communication just from body language and listening in context, I can do it better currently than Marcina, who has a plethora more Spanish than myself, just from the communicating aspect of it. So that's just one example of, it's so important, because even though I don't speak the language, I understand most of the time what's going on and what they're asking for.
Wow.
Just
Yeah, I like that communication. Like, the thing that you're keeping isn't necessarily like the ability to talk, and that communication is something so much more than that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to communicate well, I suppose, would be my answer. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
How about you? I don't know how much time we have. How about you?
I'm good for time. As you know, we've covered all the topics that I intended to cover here with you, and I'm open to chat for a little bit and maybe find out if there's where people can find you if they're interested in connecting. But while you consider that and reflect upon it, I'll reflect upon what you asked. If I could keep one thing, I'd be close to saying that as well, as like something about communication, but I don't think I will. I think there's something for me that's like deeper, and I think that I would keep courage. Like the ability, that's kind of been the story of my life, is in these like rough places or faced with these hard things or these things I don't want to do, knock on that next door, it's like, yeah, I don't know, communicate something to my wife that I feel uncomfortable about, and I'm not like, if I have something to communicate that I'm scared to communicate, I don't just like blurt it out. It's like 4 months of me like trying to avoid it and like running it around in my head, but I have always found somewhere within me that I know when it's time to act, and I know that I will act.
Yeah.
And that has kind of carried forth into, I think that's my ability to communicate, is like, I'm not great at a door, I'm not great on a call. I just kind of turn my brain off. I let myself get too deep to back out of something.
Okay.
And I kind of trick myself into winding up in these situations. I have a hard phone call to make, and I'll text the guy, and I'll be like, hey, can we talk on the phone? And it's like, now I'm expected to be on the phone, and then when on the phone, he's like, what do you want? And I'm like, now I'll trick myself in, because I know that when the moment comes, I have the courage to do the thing.
Yeah. Huh. That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, who cares if you can communicate if you don't have the courage to do it? Eh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Yeah. The tricking yourself to turning, like, you trick yourself to go too deep. For me, I just need to completely stop thinking in order to do like knocking doors. Like I cannot think. If I'm thinking, I'm sitting in a park. If I'm thinking, I'm not knocking. Like it needs to be a complete zero thought flow state in order for me to succeed, especially, cold calls as well. Like, man, if for sales has been my career, and I don't like most things that we have to do in order to make it happen. And so, yeah, that's interesting. So I don't think I have the courage to do it. I have the ability to not think about it.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
I teach a lot from that aspect. Like, yeah, the same thing, like get myself into a situation. Hey, we're going to do this executive training and come into some high-end organization. And all right, I'm here to talk about leadership and human influence. And I'm like, I can't think about it because I have no clue. I have no clue what I would say on the topics, but it's like, I've done enough work, like in the thinking in my own, that I'm like, the answers are out there.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure I've been exposed to them at some point, and that's why I love Q&As and stuff like that on like these weird topics. Is if I don't think about it, I just hang out. It's more like a channeling session. It's like I just completely empty myself out, and somebody else comes in and is moving my mouth around, and it turns out good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to trust. You got to, well, like you said, if we're all one, somebody's got it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got it. You just need to be able to open and be in the channel.
Yeah.
I mean, and you spend a lot of time thinking and understanding and mastering these things. And even though you haven't worked out how to specifically teach it perfectly, you still know it, Which
yeah, and I think there's a lot of value in that too, is the ability to not know and to do anyway. Is like that, coming back to the AI human intelligence revolution thing, is I foresee a future when the world is covered in artificially intelligent slop, more or less, and the perfection of it all will become disgusting. And it's like, and people will just yearn for somebody who stammers when they talk and like don't know the answer to the question, but like give it a shot anyway. And like back to that, I think that's an essential piece of humanity as well, as imperfection.
Huh. That's interesting, because even now, people like that. People, like, if you go to a speaker, I'm trying to think of two examples, but I won't be able to. But if you go to a speaker who is flawless and just the entire thing is perfect, his timing, his body language, his smile, like he never says, it's so much less relatable than someone who isn't perfect. And you'll find like much more of a different type of following, or maybe even more of a following by someone who is just more raw, and just more, not more maybe more raw, but just like less refined, because they're more relatable. So that's interesting.
More relatable. Yeah. Easier to identify with the energy they're putting out.
If that person could do it, so could I, instead of there's no way I could be like that,
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
dude, thank you so much for having me, man. This has been great. We killed it. A couple hours in.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time, Nick, and your willingness to hop on and be episode number 1.
Yep.
And I look forward to reconnecting and bringing you back in the future if you're open to that. And
let's do it.
And I think for just before we close, is do you have links or websites or anything that you would want in the show notes here for people to connect with you?
Man, I don't have social media. I don't have anything at this moment. I can get my email. I can get my email out there. That would probably, that's what I was thinking might be the only thing. So I think you have that, but I'll throw it in the chat.
Okay, awesome. And if people wanted to, what are you looking for people to contact you for? Is it
anything,
sales training or
anything? If somebody
bullshitting,
yeah, if somebody feels the want or the need to connect, then let's do it. I'm down. Yeah, for whatever someone might need or want, I'm down.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Nick.
Hey man, appreciate you. We'll chat soon. All right.
Okay, love you lots. Take care.
Right, man, see ya.